Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So we are from group 4 with the member Mira Stolia Kirani, Nur Ilmiah, Nur Fajriya, Andi Rifki Wirazaki, and Al Khairun Nasaputri will present a video about audio lingual method. So let's watching. So next is the background of audiolingual method. While the audiolingual method is the product of three historical circumstances. For this view of language, audiolinguism drew the work of American linguists such as Leonard Bloomfield. The prime concern of American linguistics at the early decades of the 20th century had been document all the indigenous language spoken in the USA. However, because of the dearth of trained native teachers who would provide a theoretical description of the native language, linguistics had to rely on. For the same reason, a strong focus on oral language was developed. At the same time, behavioral psychologists such as B.F. Skinner were forming the belief that all behavior, including language, was learned through repetition. The third factor that enabled the birth of the audiolingual method was the outbreak of the World War II, which created the need to post a large number of American servicemen all over the world.
Principle of audiolingual method. First, instructions are given in a target language. Second, language forms occur within a context. Third, students' native language interference as little as possible with the students' attempts to acquire the target language. Fourth, teaching is directed to provide students with a native speaker-like model. Fifth, error carefully avoided because they lead information of bad habits. Sixth, positive reinforcement helps the students to develop correct habits. 7. The teacher is regarded as an orchestral leader conducting, guiding, and controlling the student's behavior in a target language. 8. Learning a foreign language is treated on a par with native language learning. 9. Students are taken to be imitators of the teacher's models of the types. 10. The dialogue is the chief of presenting vocabulary, structure, and it's learned through repetition and imitation. 11. Memorization and patterns drills are the practice the technique that are emphasizes. 12. Listening and speaking are given priority in the language teaching and they precede reading and writing. 13. Correct pronunciation, stress, and rhythm.
Okay, the next is the theory of language. Influenced by the descriptive linguistic, American structuralists headed by Leonard Bloomfield adopted a new technique for studying language, concentrating on the spoken form of language. They gathered examples of dialect conversation and analyzed them into the building blocks of language, i.e. sounds, words, and sentences. They argue that learning language is in fact learning the disparate elements and how they are combined with each other. The following 5 slogans. The first is language is primarily speech, not writing. Okay, all language of the world, even those without having a written system, do process a spoken form. Furthermore, children master the spoken form of their mother tongue long before they learn how to read and write. The second, language is a set of habits. The advocates of ALM, influenced by behavioristic views of their time, regarded all human activities as behaviors or habits formed through repetition and reinforcement to be fully discussed in the theory of language of ALM. They claim the language as a verbal behavior can be regarded as a series of habits each consisting of a particular response automatically given an explicit or implicit stimulus. This language could be learned through excessive repetition of mechanical type. The next is teach the language, not about the language. Instead of teaching the rules and their exception, structural advocated teaching the language itself through oral practice. This entailed avoiding grammatical explanation as was the common practice in GTM. The next is the language is what native speakers say, not what someone thinks they should say. Contrary to prescriptives, structuralists gave priority to the daily use of language by native speakers and the setting in which they occurred. They did not consider this form of language is impure and erroneous. Okay, the last is language are different. The strongly object using student L1 in the classroom, particularly in traditional translation exercises, influenced by contrastive analysis. They argue due to great difference between language, there was always the danger of interference from L1. In fact, they rejected the long-standing notion of language universals. Okay, the next is the characteristic of ALM. Some characteristics of this method are: the first is drills are used to teach structural patterns. Second, set pairs are memorized with a focus on intonation. The next, grammatical explanations are kept to a minimum. The next, vocabulary is taught in context. Next, audio-visual aids are used. The next is focus is on pronunciation. And the last is correct response are positively reinforced immediately.
Characteristic of audiolingual method. Some characteristics of this method are: drills are used to teach structural patterns. Set phrases are memorized with a focus on intonation. Grammatical explanations are kept a minimum. Vocabulary is taught in context. Audiovisual aids are used focus on a pronunciation. Correct response are positively reinforced immediately.
Repeat. Okay, the next is the goal of ALM. The ultimate goal of ALM is gaining proficiency in all four language skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. This general objective is achieved through training the learners in sound discriminations, increasing auditory memory, improving native-like pronunciation, and developing accuracy and fluency in a limited portion of language. Meanwhile, the learners find the opportunity to overlearn the grammatical structures and everyday life vocabulary items. Reading and writing come after the oral skills and are thus not usually emphasized until later stage. Nevertheless, sound-symbol relationships are introduced from the very.
Okay, next I will explain about activities of audiolingual method. There are two major types of activities in audiolingual methods. First, mimicry memorization of dialogues through repetition, and second, pattern release of grammatically structures. The former is to help students learn contextually structures, vocabulary items, pronunciations, and cultural points. The latter is to enhance automaticity, fluency, and accuracy in grammatical. The use of drills and patterns practiced are the distinctive features of the audiolingual method. These are some kinds of drills often used. The first, repetition. The students repeat an utterance aloud as soon as they have heard it. They do this without looking at a printed text. The utterance must be brief enough to retain it by the ear. Sound is as important as form and order. Examples: teachers, I used to know him. Student, I used to know him. And teacher, I used to know him years ago. Student, I used to know him years ago. And the second is inflection. One word in utterance appears in another form when repeated. Examples: I bought the ticket. I bought the tickets. He bought the candy. She bought the candy. I call it the young man. I call it the young man. And number 3 is substitution. One word in utterance is replaced by another. Example: he bought this house cheap. He bought it cheap. Helen left early. She left early. They gave their boss a watch. They gave him a watch. Next, the 4 is completion. The student hears an utterance that is complete except for one word, then repeats the utterance in completed form. Examples: teacher, I will go my way and you go. Student, I will go my way and you go yours. Teachers, we all have own troubles. Student, we all have our own troubles. And the last, number 5, is transformation. A sentence is transformed by being made negative or interrogative or through change in tense, mode, voice, aspect, or modality. Examples: he knows my address. He does not know my address. Does he know my address? He used to know my address. If he had known my address.
Okay, next, what is the role of teacher? The teacher is like an orchestra leader, directing and controlling the language behavior of his or her student. He or she also is responsible for providing his or her student with a good model for imitation. Next, what is the role of the student? Students are imitators of the teacher, model, or the tapes she supplies of model speakers. They follow the teacher directions and respond as accurately and as rapidly as possible. Advantage of the audiolingual method. In terms of the advantage of ALN, there are many benefits brought about by audiolingualism in comparison with the grammar translation method and direct method. 1. The audiolingual method is cited to be the best approach for beginning level foreign classes. 2. It aims at developing listening and speaking skills, which constitute a step away from the grammar translation method. 3. It paved the way for the development of communicative language teaching, or CLT, which has been seen as a response to the audiolingual method. And the last 4, it popularized the use of visual aids, the positive impact of which on memorable and effective learning has been proven in vocabulary. And the last topic is disadvantage of the ALM. 1. This is a teacher-centered method. The ALM makes considerable demands upon the teacher. 2. The basic step of imitation, repetition, and reinforcement turn students into parrots who can produce many good utterances but never create anything new. 3. Students lack an active role in the classroom. And the last 4. Very little attention is paid to communication and content. Thank you.